Hi, I want to talk about something which, from a teacher's perspective, is uh, something that always hangs in the air, like the sword of Damocles, like the elephant in the room. And that's confidence. How confidence is, in many ways, the most important thing. If I could give one thing as a teacher to my students that trumps everything else, like literally everything else, it would be confidence. But it's an elusive kind of concept. I mean, what even is it? And I want to really dig into it a little bit. I mean, I think it's very deep. There's not, you could probably spend a lifetime trying to work out what confidence is and still be almost scraping the surface of it, really. But I want to dig in a little bit and see if we can find the basic principles of what confidence is and how it works and why it can be so elusive sometimes. So for me, the term confidence comes from the same root as the verb to confide. And in music, and it's musical confidence we're talking about, really. I'm not talking about general confidence, although obviously the two are highly related. But musical confidence, I think, is expressive confidence. And that expressive confidence really starts with rhythm. Rhythm is the key. Specifically the groove, this feeling of musical groove that we have in our body, this poetic quality that groove has, groove meter, that magical poetic thing that is so magical, as I say, so powerful. Expressing that from an honest place. So to confide isn't to use bravado or performance. It isn't even competence. It isn't even being good at it. It's just simply saying what you feel from a very honest place, from the place that is unobserved by your ego. Just think about what I'm saying here. So when we perform, quite often we watch ourselves performing. We see ourselves. It's a sort of self-conscious state. I think for all of us, this undermines self-confidence. For some people, the effect of that undermining is less than others. But it is an undermining effect to be watching ourselves self-consciously, to be putting on a show. Even now, as I'm speaking to you, my greatest challenge is to keep telling you what I'm feeling from an honest, confiding place rather than a sort of rehearsed, performed place, because I know that, especially given the subject matter that I'm, choosing to talk about here, it would be highly inauthentic of me to talk about confidence without actually being confiding, actually having that quality of confidence or confidingness. And that is the thing that is sometimes so elusive for people, to actually be that transparent, that unvarnished. It's not easy to express ourselves in that way that is totally authentic, without ego, without performance, without guile, without a veneer of confidence, because that would be just bravado. It wouldn't be confidence at all. Bravado and confidence, to me, totally different. And as I say, it's not even competence, because somebody might have very limited skills but be amazingly confident, and therefore, a really good performer, if you like. But it's not performing. That's the point. It's just expressing. So that feeling in the groove, that feeling of, this followed by that, then this followed by that poetic feeling, we have to feel that from within. We have to allow ourselves to express that without it being a performance, without it being self-conscious. So confidence is therefore nothing to do with success. I mean, success is just a lottery anyway. I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends what you mean. It's one of those terms again. How do you define success? We're not talking about success. What is success? We're not doing that here. We're talking about confidence, but they're very, very different things. And I think it's very important to say that confidence, to me, is a more of a sort of childlike state, in a way. success feels very grown up, doesn't it? It's like even for a child prodigy, to be successful is to be thrust sort of into an adult realm. No, confidence isn't that. Confidence is this almost childlike state of self-expression, this state of self-conscious, unvarnished, guileless, childlike, natural self-expression. So that means that as a musician, your job is really to create music from your sort of innocent child place, your inner child, this place of innocent expressive feeling. Now, I would say we all have to do that. Some people have some success at creating music from a very different place. And, I hold my hands up. I have this, I call it dark side ability. I have this dark side ability to some degree. The ability to create music, not from your innocent child, but from your ego, from the part of you that wants to, do a good job, to impress people, to be good, to be perfect, to be normal, to be special, to be cool, all these things to get approval. That the ego is so important to our human ego. And in giving up those desires and just wanting to express like a child, that to me is true confidence. So coming from the ego undermines confidence, is what we're saying. But some people have the ability to come from their ego and do well. I have some of that ability. I would say it takes me so far and then it kind of hurts me, and that might be true for most people. It can make me neurotic. It can actually undermine. I can feel it undermining my confidence. That's what I'm saying. So although I can perform pretty well from my ego, and I did as a young musician, competing a lot in classical piano competitions and so on, there was a lot of ego, there's a lot of drive to achieve. Ultimately, that didn't make me more confident. It made, even winning all the time, it didn't make me more confident. It made me less confident, strangely. So it's not about success. It's not about winning. It's not about coming from your ego. It's about coming from this place deep within you that is kind of like an innocent child. The problem that we have in our culture is that the people who can perform well from their ego, and somehow I suppose they tap into this place of more childlike self-expression, somehow from their ego, that is often labeled as talent and confidence. So what I'm saying is kind of very opposite of confidence. It's often labeled as confidence, and even worse than that, it's what's called talent. We call it talent. So I think a lot of kids who run the gauntlet of music education, the ones that do really well are often the ones that have this, what I call dark side ability, that I had to some degree. It's not real confidence, and it's not what I rely on. It's not my musical skill. I wouldn't say it's my musical talent. It's a kind of performance knack. So I'm going to just revisit the point that I made earlier, that musical confidence comes from rhythm. It comes from this desire to express that is in rhythm. Rhythm is telling. There's rhythm in my speech now, and it's the rhythm that's telling what I'm telling you as much as it is the words. And that rhythm is somehow even preserved if the words are written down and you're reading them. You might impart your own rhythm to some degree rather than mine, but it's still, there's a music in language that imparts information. Obviously, in music without words, it's the only thing primarily that's imparting the information, and then the tonality in my way of teaching music is put on top. It's like the tonal argument enhances the storytelling that the rhythm creates. And it's this feeling of being able to sort of unfold. Even the simplest music can unfold. And it's that feeling of storytelling and flow, that unfolding of the music, of the story, and in a sense of ourselves, that is musical confidence. It's not about whether everyone likes it or not. As I say, it's not about success. It's not about whether it's good playing and it's accomplished. It's not about competence. It's that ability to say it in a way that feels very natural. And the groove is it's tricky. It's as natural as speech, but it's obviously a lot more stretched. In music, it stretches and it becomes this kind of poetic feeling. So obviously, this link with speech is very, very interesting. If you happen to have a way of speaking that is very expressive, maybe that helps you. It's interesting. So we'll look into that a little bit more, but the important thing that I'm sort of trying to get across here is that it's through allowing ourselves to feel the rhythm in our body and soul, to feel that storytelling, that poetry, that dance, that wave, that groove, getting your groove on, feeling it. Doesn't matter what the genre of music is for me. I know a lot of very academic styles of music, modern jazz, classical, can sometimes lack a feeling of groove, and maybe that's fashionable. But for me, I don't have the ability to play music confidently, really expressively, really honestly, without tuning into that flowing feeling of telling it from a very innocent, childlike place. All right, so the challenge, I was talking about speech, and I think speech is part of it. The way we speak is part of this, the way we express ourselves. We express ourselves obviously within the context of living in civilized society, whatever that means. I mean, it can mean all kinds of things, can't it? But being civilized carries with it a certain expressive stricture or burden. We have to appear civilized, polite, politic. We have to come across as, kind of, hello, how are you? I'm fine. We can't meet each other and go, oh, like a small child, or like a dog. I saw a dog the other day, obviously greeting some person that this dog knew very well and hadn't seen for a long time. The dog went berserk, and I was thinking, goodness me, that's not civilized. And we have to find access to the realm of dogs and children, the realm of exuberant expression where the vowels are long. Now, obviously, there are different accents. Some accents have these longer vowels, these long vowels. Some accents have them. It depends on where you're from. I live here in London, and people here in London speak in a very civilized way, and we don't really do those long vowels. And music's got to have that quality. Even the fastest music, with lots and lots of notes, has got to have this flow that's pulling through it for us to really feel it. And it's embarrassing. This is the thing. It sort of embarrasses our civilized persona, our ego identity that we've created that fits into normal civilized society and has a way of expressing that I'm currently doing right now, which is not really very musical. It's far too civilized to be really musical. That's the point. So allowing ourselves to drop into a state where we have these exuberant long vowels, this feeling of maybe like to sing, we have to let the voice go up like this. We have to allow ourselves to express like a child. And this is something that obviously what I'm advocating is that we practice. It can be painful. It's kind of going towards the pain to actually jump into the cold water of being this exuberant, expressive, childlike, dog-like, uncivilized creature. And that's kind of, that's the conundrum of confidence. We have to find the courage to do that. And I suppose the magic word is natural. It's a return to a state of innocence or a kind of natural state, rather than it being awkward, like it can feel to the ego to do something which, although natural, perhaps more natural than I'm being right now with my civilized manner of rhythm and expression that's coming through the language that I'm using, a more uncivilized and exuberant and childlike manner, which doesn't feel normal in civilized society. To get that to feel natural, to practice until being that full of feeling, allowing ourselves to be that much of an expressive being is natural. It's finding that naturalness that's key. It is natural, but it doesn't always feel natural, because especially if we've had years and years of lessons. Some of you may have seen the film Whiplash. I had a teacher that was all about time spots. You had to hit the metronome was on, and I had to hit those time spots perfectly, every note. Sometimes you'd have the metronome on quite fast and it'd be like tick, 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 tick. And I'd have to hit every single one of those time spots. And he was angry if I was a bit early or a bit late. I mean, genuinely angry. So, if anybody's had any of that kind of experience of lessons, it can feel very unnatural to sort of become unbridled and free and allow ourselves to express in that way. And just practicing saying these mantras, I teach people to say mantras to become skilled in this expressive way of using groove. Just to get ourselves to say these mantras in a way that is super expressive and at the same time feels natural. It's a huge ask to do that simultaneously whilst playing the piano, when there's almost like it's imprinted in our body, this feeling of self-consciousness from those lessons. How many people like me can remember that feeling that you don't even play the first note of a piece because the teacher's probably going to say, no, it's no good. So it's a lot, isn't it, to reclaim that childlike innocence, that childlike expressive state that's in the groove, that's in the music. And obviously we have to be patient and we have to be kind and gentle. So we have to be compassionate. We have to give ourselves that compassion, give ourselves that space to explore and rediscover that expressive naturalness that will create confidence. But we also have to be courageous. We have to just jump. We have to do it. I mean, I could talk about this forever, couldn't I? I could talk and talk and talk. I could write books. I could read books. In the end, it's not going to work just thinking about it. You've got to do it. You've got to make that leap of faith, and you've got to be prepared to drop all the balls and for it to be a complete mess and just laugh at yourself and say that was more self-conscious than the last time I tried to do it, and go again. Courage and compassion. You have to be audacious. You have to be bold to tell this truth, to tell your real truth, to confide, to be confident.